All right, last question. We just had our state election here in Victoria and saw our very left-wing corrupt government reelected for a third term. Both sides of politics here are speaking out against Christians and referring to them as religious fundamentalists and dangerous. Christians are being canceled and literally being blocked from holding seats in parliament. What would you say to Christians living under such a government, which will be emboldened after such a convincing victory? What are you sensing the Lord doing in the nations? Well, there are times, and they've occurred in history again and again, where Christians come under religious persecution. And Jesus said there will come times where those who hate you will believe they are doing God a favor. So I don't know what you can do about blocking people from holding seats in Parliament. It seems to me that will probably make its way through the courts, and it should result in the courts intervening and saying you can't ban people from being given seats in Parliament based on their religious persuasion. But that's a months-long endeavor, possibly years-long. There's not much you can do about that. The only other thing you can do is pray to the Lord to bring down unjust government, and as well to expose the corruption of that government so that everyone will see how corrupt and unjust it is. And you can ask for the Lord to intervene so that, the next election is better. And as the scripture commands, you can pray that you would be able to live quiet and peaceable lives. And so with that, pray for those who are persecuting you. Pray for Dan Andrews, who is the head of the Victoria government in Australia. Pray for the opposition party that doesn't seem to be any better. Because we are told to pray for kings and all those in authority. It doesn't say just for just and righteous ones. Pray for the corrupt and the despicable ones. And so, if you will do that, eventually you'll prevail. But in the short term, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do. You're stuck living under an unjust government. It's coming to the United States. It's in Canada already. So Victoria, got it a little later than Canada did, but you can move if you want to. Jesus said, if they persecute you in one city, flee to the next. So if they're persecuting you in Victoria, move to Queensland or Western Australia, or South Australia's got a pretty strong Christian population too. That's an option for you if you have the flexibility to move. Sometimes you can't. You may. I know in Australia, if you're divorced, you and the spouse have to live in the same state so the children can see both parents. So if you're a divorcee with children, you may not have that flexibility to move to another state unless the kids are grown. In which case you grit your teeth, you bear it, and you pray for God to render justice and to deliver you. It says in the book of Exodus that a new Pharaoh arose who knew not the Lord and did not recognize Joseph and the work that he had done. And so he set the children of Israel to making bricks and building cities and pyramids. And it says the people cried to the Lord and God knew. And it was out of that knowing that he sent Moses to rescue them. And so the Lord always hears the cries of the righteous. He rarely answers as rapidly as we wish he would, but it's because he always has a purpose in everything that's for our good. And part of what he's trying to do is sanctify us in the midst of our suffering and our difficulty. Nobody likes to hear that. Oh boy, I'm going to become more sanctified because I get to suffer and go through difficulty and be slandered and hated by all nations. But Jesus said it would happen. And so all you can do is, as these things begin to happen, rejoice that you have been counted worthy to suffer for the name. That's it. It's not what you want to hear. It's not like, crack the can open and, drink the drink, or, wave the bones, or say the easy prayer and it's all going to go away. Even in the book of Revelation, it says this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints. So these are the times in which we live, and the world is at the moment getting more evil. Maybe we are going to have that great revival everyone's been preaching, but it hasn't happened yet. And at the moment, it's getting worse. And I'll tell you something, most of the major preachers and teachers on revival, and I don't care which one you want to name, most of them are acknowledging now privately that the revival hasn't come and it's not happening. There are moments where there's great outpourings and excited church meetings and the Spirit is poured out and so forth. But there's nothing like a sustained move of God across any of our societies just at this moment. Again, it may change tomorrow, but tonight, that's not true. Tonight where I sit. And for the longest time, you couldn't even get a conversation like that going. But now most of them are starting to say, yeah, we don't have revival. We really need revival. And so I've been kind of challenging people saying, I think it's time for us to start preaching about this because people are confused. They've been hearing for a generation about the great revival that's coming, and it isn't here. What's going on? And I don't know. I don't know how long we're going to have to wait. But this calls for patient endurance on the part of the faithful.